Oops. Hello, everyone. This is Ariyana Love. Just getting my phone set up. Ariyana Love with Occupy Palestine TV and the Liberty Beacon. Waiting for Dan Frank to join me. We have some more things to talk about. Welcome. Hi, Samuel. Nice to see you again. I'm going to wait a minute and let Dan come in. How is everybody this evening? There's Dan. I'm going to add you. Here he comes. There he is.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Dan. Good. I'm
Good.
doing good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah?
Losing my
Good,
voice a little
good.
bit.
Yeah. Have you been shouting?
Shouting at the world.
Shouting at the Israeli occupation.
Yes. From the top of my lungs to the top of my house.
Yep,
Hey, Samuel,
exactly.
how you doing? It's so frustrating, Ariana. Oh my God.
I know. We were talking about that just earlier. Uh, how
Yeah.
how infuriating it is, that a lot of the world is still sleeping to these atrocities. And,
Which is
you have to.
which is which is really there is no excuse for it with all the means of information now, the way we can share information. You have to be blatantly ignorant not to wake up to these atrocities. It it's a choice. Being ignorant is a choice nowadays. It's not
Mm,
like we were beholden back in the 60s and 70s and 80s to the three networks. We now have a plethora of information at our fingertips.
that's
But
right.
these Zionists have infiltrated every nook and cranny of the Western world. So they have indoctrinated people so deeply that they're even unwilling or incapable of
Mm,
seeing the truth, even as it's presented live with video coming from the Middle East.
exactly.
And, as you have spent time there and I have spent time there, um, that's why I tried to get a group together to go there to witness this in person. Because I think that's one of the few ways you can only see it in person. But of course, most trips to Israel are designed uh, tours that only let you see what they want you to see. The Israeli
Hmm.
side, they
Hmm.
won't dare let you. They won't dare let you go to Hebron or certain areas of Bethlehem where
That's
the
right.
atrocities, are really prominent.
That's right. Or to Gaza. Gaza
Or to
is,
Gaza,
and for people who try to break the siege, the Freedom Flotilla, um, the Israeli occupation commits piracy out in international waters and, abducts boards the ships, beats people up, um,
murder
you know,
people.
tor even murder and commit, abduct the people, the boats, take them to Israeli occupied Palestine, put them into detention facilities where they have to endure, lighter
Har-
forms of torture that are, compared to the Palestinian people. They're going to be
Very
a little more.
harsh. Yeah, it's very harsh treatment to these people.
Mm. So, yeah, it's a really good point that you made, how we have to continue to defend the Palestinian people and to educate um, the public to what's really going on, even when there's a video right in front of our faces of, a child being sniped with a
Yes.
kill shot, of a child's brains blown out in Gaza, and he was not a threat to
No.
anyone.
No.
He was nowhere near the apartheid barrier fence. He
Yes.
was on his own land, demonstrating, doing cultural activities at the Great Return March to draw attention to their plight, to draw,
They have they
the
have a right
14-year-old.
to live.
Absolutely.
It's a basic human right is to live with
To live.
dignity, with the water, with food.
with food. That 14-year-old boy who was executed by an Israeli sniper last week at the Great Return March last Friday, he
Yeah,
was, there's a documented, footage, an interview with him in an NGO office where he said the reason he's going to the demonstration is because his family of, I think it was 9 people, are hungry. They don't have food. And so he was going there to see if he could find work. He had high hopes of finding work so that he could bring food
right.
home.
Yeah,
And this is the tragic situation for the Palestinian people now in Gaza. They are besieged. They've had all of humanitarian aid from the United States cut.
I know.
And yet the US will give billions of dollars each year of American taxpayers' money to the Israeli occupation to continue to commit these war crimes, atrocities.
It's sickening.
And to weapons test for the Israeli and the US arms industry in Gaza. And then they brainwash the American people through the media, as we know.
And the
But
churches.
they do a whole lot more than just, they not only own the media, the mainstream media. 96% of the worldwide media was owned by 6 corporations. It has shrunk down to 3 or 4 by now. These are all Zionist Israelis, Zionists with Israeli nationality. Because again, Israel, the Israeli occupation, that is the fiefdom. That is their escape haven for the criminals. Criminals go there and get off from their charges in their respective countries. If they're Jewish, they get this carte blanche pass to be criminals. So, but it's not the only way that they influence our minds in favor of Israel and Jews and against Palestinians and Muslims. They do this, and Arabs. Obviously there's much anti-Arab propaganda in Hollywood and in the media. It's rife with it.
Absolutely.
But also they spend a lot of money. Usually it's, these Jewish Zionist tycoons like George Soros and, who is it? Snyder,
Sheldon Adelson.
Aldelson, yeah, who pay a lot of money for infiltration into every single truth movement. The truth community, anybody who cares about the truth, it becomes sort of a community. You end up associating with people or meeting people that are passionate about the same things, and it's normal to do broadcasts together or something like this.
Right.
But the Jewish mafia, okay, and there's no, here I just want to make it really clear in case there's new people watching. I'm not against Jews. I'm not going to be against you just because of your religion or your ethnicity or the color of your skin. I mean, that's for me, that's idiotic. Okay, that's low level thinking. And I don't subscribe to that. However, we cannot deny that it is Jewish community. It is a Jewish mafia. It is a mafia within the Jewish community that is controlling the world. All of our so-called elites call themselves Jews. They're either openly or they're crypto.
They're Judaizing the world.
Definitely.
Definitely. They have,
and so we have to recognize.
Now I was going to say, they have implemented the Noahide laws back when Bush 1 was in office.
Absolutely.
That's already been passed. People worry about Sharia law, but they didn't have a clue about the Noahide laws.
Yeah.
Right out of the Talmud.
Mm-hmm. And the Noahide laws are based on the Talmud, which is a Jewish book. All right.
Which is wicked.
We cannot be naive to it. It's wicked. It allows for blood sacrifice. It allows for the pedophilia, the rape of children. It compares Jesus Christ to excrement.
Burning in hell.
Yeah. And they, yeah. And it gives them the guidelines for very sick things, very sick thinking, like hating Christians, believing that it's an honor to kill Christians. I mean, Christians need to realize that. Israelis are not your friend.
I've seen churches myself in Bethlehem with Jewish graffiti on it, spray painting the Star of David on it. There's a
Yeah,
village
of
outside
course.
of There's a village outside of Hebron with the church and a mosque, and they have completely destroyed the church.
Hmm. All of the Christian community in occupied Palestine, throughout occupied Palestine, they are targeted. A lot of the churches have been vandalized and burned to the ground by Jewish mobs, settler mobs. These are illegal settlers. There's about 650,000 illegal settlers, Israeli. They have their Israeli passport, and they're from all over the world, and they're living in Palestinian territory, which is a war crime. So every one of them, once they're over 18, boom, criminal. They're a criminal. They need to be restrained by their necks and face charges.
Yet they walk around machine guns straight over their shoulders.
And they're allowed to carry guns and weapons, and which they use to shoot and they do attack Palestinians. They run them
Absolutely,
over
they
with
do.
their cars. They've run over dozens of Palestinian children in their vehicles. It's absolutely disgusting, and they're never punished.
Total
Um,
impunity.
Total impunity. And yet Palestinians are not allowed to carry a weapon. They're not allowed to have a gun. They're not allowed to defend themselves. And then to make things worse, they are presented by mainstream media as, the Zionist-controlled mainstream media as terrorists, as, haters, as
Mm-hmm.
also being responsible. You always hear these clashes when it's nothing like that. These are victims. They're victims. The Palestinian people are 100% victims. Their own internal politics are their own internal politics. It's none of our business. Who they vote for. This is their business, and it should be their business. That's their right. We have no right to interfere in that. But they are 100% victims. They had they did not provoke any of this. They became occupied by Zionist militia in 1948. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, most of the people tuning in, I think everybody who's here already knows this. So I'm going to get right down to the main topic that we were going to discuss, and that is controlled opposition. And the reason that we're doing this is because I had this horrible experience last night by somebody I was introduced to recently. I'm gonna put their names out there because they were so bold as to call me a government agent on a live stream, completely unwarranted, out of the blue, based on nothing, and they set me up for it. So you had no idea who you were messing with. All right. That was David Dower. I can't even say his name. Dowderive and Chris Dorsey. So David invites me into this broadcast, into Chris Dorsey's live stream. And it seems like Chris Dorsey, it's like David is his sidekick or something. Well, I'm in the live stream, and within
Chris
very
Dorsey is a
short amount of,
lunatic.
thank you. Yeah, I kind of have
He
the
is a
same
he is
opinion.
an absolute lunatic.
Yeah, Dan watched the live stream. So he was very clever at provoking me. And I apologize, if you watch that, it's on his Facebook page. Boy, I was not in my best form. And I did get provoked, and I did, you know, use foul language and things like this. But the thing that infuriated me the most was like he was blasting me with questions and not giving me a chance to answer anything. Then he began to make assumptions, and I
He filled
realized there's an agenda here. Yeah, I mean, and then he started to say some things that, well, I mean, very quickly it escalated. And every time I would begin to respond to any of his questions, he then
interrupt.
interrupted, asked another question, changed the subject. So I mean, there was like several subjects going on at once, and I was like, wow, okay. And then very quickly, this man, David, called me a government agent, said I work for the government. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't. Based on what? And there was nothing. Well, you live in Finland. Okay, so I don't live in America, so I'm a traitor. I'm no longer American. Oh, okay. But the thing that provoked me the most, okay, this was the thing that got under my skin and the reason why I lost my cool, okay, because we're all human, is because he said that why do I care? He asked me, why do I spend so much time defending Palestinian human rights. Why the Palestinian people? You know, when he said, when, you know, not only are the Palestinian children being harmed, but there's children all over the world that are suffering and being killed. Yes, this is true. And the interesting thing is, the reason why I called in on that live stream was to talk about the worldwide child sacrifice and child trafficking that's going on, which includes all children globally. But the asshole, excuse my language, but that's what I'd like to call him, wouldn't even give me a chance to speak. So anyway, I'm so glad I didn't drop that information on his live stream, because he didn't deserve it. So anyway, but when he said that, you know, I had something to say, and I really wanted to say it, and that is that, but now I get to say it to you guys. The Palestinian children suffer and endure more than other children. And the reason is because, for example, yesterday, an 8-year-old child was shot by a military sniper in his chest. That's a kill shot. It's meant to kill him. And there is nowhere in the world where this is being done in broad daylight, in front of the watching eyes of the world.
With total
They're getting
impunity.
away with total impunity. With total impunity, they're getting away with murder. Tell me where that's going on. Nowhere. I mean, not that kids aren't dying all over the place, all over the world. They are, but not like this. And not only that, nowhere in the world are children being systematically abducted from their homes,
At 3
dragged
a.m.
across, at all hours of the day and night, and dragged across the screen line and put into Israeli detention centers and systematically tortured. They're very sophisticated with their system of torture of Palestinian children. There is nowhere in the world where this systematic torture of children occurs. Nowhere. Only occupied Palestine. So therefore, the Palestinian cause is very unique. And the Palestinian children deserve
Better.
They deserve our respect. They deserve our support. And anybody who supports Palestine should never be something that is drawn into question. That should be something that is respected. That should be something that is, you know,
We all should be
appreciated. It's something we all have a responsibility to do.
Yes.
And for him to say what he said on a day when a child is struggling in critical condition for his life from a kill shot by an Israeli sniper, for him to say that, it is extremely insensitive. And I am always sensitive on Fridays when the Great Return March goes on and I see the atrocities. It is, there are no words for it. So I was at my weakest moment. And, you know, that's probably why they invited me in at that time. Now, I don't know if they are controlled opposition or if they are government agents or not. I have no proof whatsoever. However, I can see a pattern that I've seen before with people who are controlled opposition. Okay? And that is that, first of all, they are doing this with many people. And if you watch those videos, you know, even after I hung up the phone, there was somebody else who came on and they were blasting them in the same way and accusing them of being a government agent as well. Okay, well, this is defamation of character. For me, I felt assaulted. All right?
You were assaulted.
I was assaulted. It is an assault. That is against the law in America, where they dwell, and that's against the law in Finland. And I know that the Finnish authorities take this very seriously. The women have rights here in this country more than they have rights in America. Even though in America it's pretty good, or it was pretty good. You know, we've basically lost our constitution. It's been hijacked. But anyway, you know, that's why I've got the flag upside down, because America, this is a symbol of distress. And I mean, everyone should be flying their flags upside down. All American people. This does not make you unpatriotic. This is patriotic. This is what you're supposed to do when you're in a state of emergency. So, not a state of emergency. Well, we are in a state of emergency, but I mean in a state of distress. That's the exact terms anyway. Not going to argue over semantics. So controlled opposition, it works in such a way that, what I can see the schmuck doing is triggering people. That's very much like what a handler does. Knowing, using words in such a way that will provoke a reaction. And, this is done, it is done to serve, the purpose of this is to create chaos and division among activists, and to create a diversion and a distraction from the truth. I called in with a very specific reason. I called in to talk about the child trafficking. This is a very serious issue, which I have heard him talk about. I saw him in one live stream, so I didn't actually know what he was doing, and I was referred to him. So I kind of walked into a trap, obviously. But let's see. I have seen him attacking people in the pro-Palestine movement. He was very anti-pro-Palestine movement. This was one thing that he said, which, I don't really mingle in the pro-Palestine movement, and I've had all kinds of experiences. I've had infiltrators attack me. It still goes on. It goes on constantly. It means I'm really doing something. It's because I'm really speaking the truth. And, the people, most of the people that they are attacking might actually be infiltrators. It's possible, and we'll give, for example, this came up in the live stream last night, Ariel Gold. Now, a lot of people really like her. However, a lot of people say she's a snood. Okay. Let's put it out there, because, I mean, personally, I had a run-in with her on Facebook, in a Facebook group, which she got me blocked from. But basically, I posted one thing about, it was the Red Cross records from the World War II in Germany. And it showed that less than 300,000 people actually died in the labor camps, okay, according to Red Cross records. I wasn't trying to be provocative. I just, I was researching. I was genuinely interested, and I wasn't being rude. And she basically, as far as she is concerned, no questioning the Holocaust whatsoever. Well, she's Jewish.
Red flag.
Red flag. Okay. I'm not going to accuse her of being an infiltrator. I have no proof. I cannot say that. I cannot make a claim like that without evidence. But it's a red flag. And I'm not the only person that she took a disliking to. Okay. So, when these are the things that, you come across and you have to go, that's strange. Because it's already been determined that there were not 6 million Jews killed. We know that. There weren't even 6 million Jews in all of Europe at that time, according to the Jewish records. So, come on, like, we can't talk about this. We can't discuss this. Why not? Why not? It's an important subject. Anyway, so, I can't accept that. And, so, sometimes you just people rub each other the wrong way. But as far as this Chris Dorsey, I found his behavior to be absolutely disgusting, disgraceful, despicable, insensitive, towards the Palestinian people and to the Palestinian children. And not only should he apologize to me, but he should definitely apologize to the Palestinian children and the Palestinian people for trying to downplay their suffering and these atrocities which are being committed against them. And it's the same people occupying Palestine that are occupying the United States and the U.S. government. It's exactly the same people. So that point is what unifies us. It makes us one. We're up against the same enemy. So, this controlled opposition, I was doing research on the alt-right, okay, in the in the YouTube community, the YouTube platform. Which is heavily infiltrated by these alt-right characters who, they say outlandish things. A lot of them are Satanists. A lot of them are criminals. Most of them are infiltrators, and they're paid by governments. They get picked up when they're in prison, and the government will come to them and say, okay, we'll let you off of your charges if you do this for us. And then they're like, oh, great, I got a job. And, and they have no morals. And they'll take the payment to get up there and to create chaos and to divert the attention from the real issues. Okay. And they'll talk, a lot of truth, but then there's those twists, or those, it's actually, a distraction from the truth. Like the real truth, you're not really getting down to it. And this is how they operate. And they also want opposing sides. So, for example, if you use in America, you've got the Democrats and the Republicans, right? Well, we know that both sides are funded by the same people.
They're exactly the same.
Exactly. And it works the same way in any movement, in any, even within the pro-Palestine movement. They want people to go up there, the ones who are protesting, and to argue with each other, because they don't want unity. So that's what it appears to me that these guys are doing by attacking people, who are defending Palestine. I mean, you have to have evidence if you make a claim. And you really discredit yourself if you do this kind of, with this kind of behavior. So anyway, the alt-right in YouTube, for example, the alt-right are like, a lot of them are Satanists. They're white supremacists. They call themselves white nationalists, but they're hiding behind supremacy, white supremacy, which, again, the whole ideology of supremacy, where does it come from? It comes from Talmudic law. It comes from the Talmud. And I found that the alt-right is funded by the Jewish mob, Jewish mafia, Zionists. That's who's doing this. That is who is funding controlled opposition. And we find case after case after case, many times, that it is Jewish people who do acts of anti-Semitism against Jews.
Yep.
To try to prove a case for anti-Semitism, because people really don't hate Jews. Why? What for?
They are the perpetual victims, and they play it to the nth degree.
Yeah, that they will stage these false flags attacks.
Mm-hmm.
They will stage these events. I mean, they've been caught with their, pants down, as you can say, many times.
There was a college student in a college in Virginia that spray painted a Nazi symbol on a door, and they got her on videotape doing it to herself. Yeah, it was a big news a couple of years ago.
They love to do this. Not all of them, but many of them, they do this because, they want to prove a case for anti-Semitism. So when you've got these alt-right people who are extremists and saying, Jews this and Jews that, and the Jews, right? That's what the Jewish mafia wants, so that they can prove that Jews are victims, that Jews deserve more protection, that they can, pass more draconian laws in order to take away the freedom of the rest of us, which are revered as slaves, goyim, in the Talmud.
Goyim.
That's where
cattle.
And that's cattle. That's where this comes from. The world slavery, it is a Jewish concept. Sorry to say, if that offends anybody, it's the truth. Okay? Doesn't mean I hate all Jews. I am capable of critical thinking. I'm not a racist. I'm not a, But we have to be bold enough to embrace the truth. Call a spade a spade. This is the root of all evil. This is where it's coming from. And from what I can tell, this Talmudic Babylonian occult practice is satanic. It is very satanic. They're Luciferians. They worship Moloch. They sacrifice, in the Talmud, they like to sacrifice children to Moloch. Well, who's Moloch?
Look at their flag with the star. It's 666.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
and that's where they got the 600. That's where they got the 6 million Jews.
Mm.
They were predicting that, the Jewish people,
before it even happened.
3 years before it happened, there were 12 article publications in Jewish media, because I've always owned the media, actually, because they recognized that's a modality of control. controlling people's minds. And there's like 12 publications you can find online where they predicted that 6 million Jews were going to be killed. That is an occult number, 666.
Yes, it is.
The mark of the beast. That's where it comes from. And they know this. They know it. They don't want us to know it, you know, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is and truth is our best weapon of defense. That's what I'm armed with. You know, I don't anyway, okay. So what else? Let me look at my notes here.
I heard Dorsey asking if you own guns. Like
Yeah, he
his
did.
point of
Oh, he
view is
did.
if you don't have a gun, that you
You're a
cannot
government agent.
you're a government agent and you cannot be effective
Yeah.
in your battle without a gun.
Yeah.
This guy is a
Well,
total whack job, Ariana.
yeah,
I've seen him interview with
absolutely.
other people. He
Yeah.
shouts, he screams, gets all hyper, gets
Yeah. I
irrational.
thought he's wacky. Yeah. I
He's
definitely
very
got set up for that.
he's very disillusioned.
Yeah.
But I heard him ask
And
you, do you own a gun?
you know, that's an important subject that I've really wanted to respond. I wanted to respond to every subject he brought up. He didn't give me a chance to answer anything, not any one of the questions.
Well, he
As
threw like 20 things at you
yeah, all at once.
all at once.
Well, when it comes to guns and the Second Amendment, that's in the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution, it's a masterpiece. It is the greatest freedom of all time on this
Planet.
world, on this planet, right? It's perfect. We don't need to touch it. We need to go back to it. And the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. You have the right to own a weapon. You have a right to self-defense. And no way, no how should that be removed from us. Not a single one of our freedoms should be removed, like they have been. And you
And you
know,
know, behind that movement is also the Zionists taking away our
yeah,
guns.
absolutely. Because that's what they did. You know, if we just look at history, Nazi Germany, China, I don't know exactly how it went down with the Bolsheviks, you know, if they tricked the people into relinquishing their gun rights, but
The Soviet Union.
Soviet Union. Okay, so yeah, and in China and in Germany, the Nazis, you know, convinced the German people to relinquish their guns, and then after that, boom, they rolled in and did whatever they wanted to. So there's a repeated pattern here. And, you know, we cannot relinquish our right to bear arms under any circumstances. That's why all of these school shootings are going on, which, by the way, you're not, you know, you get censored on YouTube for suggesting that they are false flags. However, I want to ask this very important question. During the Parkland, Florida school shooting last year, you know, the president's men were present and doing a drill. The president's men, not just any old Secret Service. We're talking the president's men were present at Parkland for a drill that was going on at the same time. Now, why is that? What is that?
Sounds
You
like
know?
9/11. They were doing drills
Yes.
the same day.
So if they're doing drills, I mean, I think we can use our common sense at that point. It's just that the media, you know, you have to dig to find these things. I had to dig. I had to dig in many different sources, many different places. You know, it's so obscured. It's like the truth does come out in the media, but then it's obscured. You know, it's not everywhere. It's in maybe one little publication. So it's downplayed and it's
It's
presented to look like
buried,
it's smaller than it is. Yeah, it's buried.
buried on page 8 somewhere.
Everything's all out there in the open. Everything. All the answers, all the truth of what's going down. Everything is out there. That's the truth. That's what I see. What I see the Luciferians doing is they do believe in putting the stuff out in front of us because they rely on our consent. That's part of the whole play. So, yeah. All right. So we know the controlled opposition is funded by the Jewish mafia. The alt-right in America is funded by the Jewish mafia. Most of them are criminals and Satanists. This is what I've discovered. I mean, if you research any of them, the very first character who rose up in the alt-right, or first characters, just research them. You'll find they have this very shady past, with criminal charges and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, and last night I was starting in the last live stream, I was telling a story about the Jewish expulsion from Palestine. And I forgot to finish this. Oh no, I think I did. Well, I don't want to go there. I don't feel like going there now. But all right. Okay, yeah. So I guess that's all the notes that I have. These are the main things that I wanted to discuss. The fact that the Palestinian children are enduring more than any other children in the world. This is true. It is a systematic form of abduction and torture in the detention facilities. Executions. Yeah, and executions. In broad daylight, in front of the watching eyes of the world. Nowhere else on the planet is this occurring but in occupied Palestine and Gaza.
Funded by the great old US of A.
Yes. So this is what I wanted to say. And, anybody that doesn't acknowledge that, there's something wrong with them. Either they don't care, they're the type of person that has no conscience, or they have an agenda,
They lack all empathy.
Yeah, they lack, and it's those kinds of people who they're the characters that would take a payoff to infiltrate. They have no qualms about it. Those are the types of people that, that are insensitive. And, I can't imagine that anybody watches that guy. I mean, I saw that his video, last time I looked, had like 850 views or 825 views and only one share. So people know it's wrong what he's doing. They don't even have the courage to... Yeah.
You need to post a link to that interview. I wouldn't even call it an interview. It's a shouting match. But he is an absolute lunatic, Ariyana. I've seen him with other people on YouTube, and he's off the charts with his lunacy.
Yeah.
If you don't have a gun, then you're not defending anything.
Yeah, and his claim to fame is that he wrote a book about, the militia, the right to defend yourself, form a militia and defend yourself against government tyranny in America. Which, of course, this is nothing new. He didn't invent it. I mean, it exists within our laws. It's
in the Second Amendment.
Yeah, it's our constitutional right, and I have to agree with it. But you see, again, controlled opposition works in such a way that there's going to be truth, but there's clearly an agenda, because he's doing this. There's a pattern. He's doing this with many people, attacking many people. They drew me in to call in so that they could attack me and put me on the spot and call me an agent. And, yeah. So there's an agenda here.
Having been to Finland and met you and spent time with you, I can tell your audience by unequivocally you are not an agent of Mossad or any other agent. I can assure your listeners that Ariyana is as real can be, and I spent a few weeks with her in Finland.
Yeah.
So I just want to let people know that they had any inkling of your loyalties are.
Of course, these guys probably know that.
1,000% the right place.
Well, I mean, also, you and I, Dan, we have a goodwill ambassadorship to Palestine through the ICSPR in Gaza. And this is, it's a very honorary title. It's not given out to just anybody. We have been watched and we've been vetted by both the Palestinian authorities and Gaza authorities. So they know who we are. And I mean, right there, that lends us a lot of credibility. But people have known who we are for a long time before that too.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of us is a stranger to Palestine. I know that. I have
Yeah.
many, many friends there, as I know you do. Um, Many that I love, actually, and they know they know that we're real.
Yeah. And
You said something that,
it's not just Palestine that we're concerned with. I don't care very much. I don't care about the pro-Palestine movement. I mean, I never go to these events and try to mingle and meet people. I mean, power to people who want to do that. That's great. Anything for Palestine is great. But I've never really done that. I just do what I do and stick to what I'm doing. I do it because I feel it. I want to. I lived in Palestine, in the occupied Palestinian territories for 1 year in the West Bank. I lived in a small Palestinian village. I chose to do that. I funded my own trip there. It was, I did everything myself with my own money, with no agenda, with no affiliation to any other organization, but my own because I wanted to. I wanted to be there. I guess you could say it was a pilgrimage. And so I was touched by the Palestinian people. That's part of who I am. That will forever be a part of me. And nobody has inspired me more than the Palestinian people and their cause. It's something that is, it when it takes you, it just reaches into your soul and that's it. You're never the
uh,
same.
truer
And I
words never
know it
spoken.
it only happens to people with compassion, right? Well, haven't you noticed that it's either
Yes,
infiltrators or people who have a strong capacity for compassion.
you cannot go there and spend time with these people and not walk away another person. It, if you have a heart and an inkling of empathy, you cannot spend time there with these people and see their hospitality and the love and the sheer just excitement of seeing somebody from the outside world to come to visit them. I mean, one word that they all know there, if they don't speak any English, is welcome. And me walking through the streets of Ramallah and Hebron with long blonde hair, I kind of stood out, and I got a lot, I got a lot of attention. And I mean, I got coffees and teas and free food and invited into dinners and lunches. It
Invited
was
into people's homes.
invited into people's homes. I mean, it was like I was a rock star. I mean, literally, I felt like a rock star. We were teaching a class in Bet Umar, a small village outside of Hebron. It's behind a military checkpoint. And one of the students took a liking to me and invited me and my Italian friend that she was teaching the class as well, and another a Palestinian from Hebron, back to his home for lunch. And they made us a freaking whole gourmet of food. And we were there for 3 hours, with eating, and they showed us their home. And his brother was in an Israeli prison for protecting their home because a tank was on their front yard ready to destroy their home. And he threw a rocket at the tank and spent 3 years in prison, in the Israeli prison. And they roughed up his sister. They roughed up the mother. And his brother didn't have one ill word to say about the Israelis. I was amazed. He said, well, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, not that bad. You were defending your home. And for that, you spent 3 years in prison. And he was at a young age where, we were doing his development years of going to school. But you could tell he was very silent, and you could tell it affected him very badly.
The majority of
And,
children that are taken into Israeli detention facilities are tortured. I mean, that alone, taking a child away from the parents and putting them into a prison is torture in itself. But in addition to that, they are, specifically tortured, like solitary confinement, forced confessions, beaten. They do that to kids.
you can tell he was definitely, it had a major impact on his life. There was no question
And it
about it.
does. It does.
And what they
There's
did to his family,
yeah.
I mean, he witnessed them pushing their mother against the wall and roughing the sister. And the sister, she was a little thing, she might have been 15 or 16 at the time. Tiny little cute thing. I mean, to go into someone's home and terrorize these people, it's beyond evil. I don't have a word for it.
Yeah, abduct children. Who can abduct? Who can do that? Who can abduct a child from his bed at night, handcuff him, tie up the whole family, interrogate the kids, turn
They
furniture
all,
upside down, abduct the kids screaming, drag them away from the parents? What kind of a person can do that? What kind of a person can administer a kill shot to a child's head, 8-year-old's chest?
the same kind that when I was in a barricade in Hebron, old city Hebron, we were barricaded by 50 soldiers, and children were behind this barricade. And the one soldier took a rifle at the end and hit the kid with his rifle, just smacked him because he didn't
In
know, he was a
Hebron.
child in Hebron, in old city. And I ran over immediately and shouted in his face, "What the hell are you doing?" And I looked into his eyes, and I mean, I really looked into his soul. And I can tell
Mm,
you, man, there's nothing there. These people are demonically possessed. You would have to be to do that to a
mhm,
child, to
mhm.
not have any feelings or sympathy or
Yes.
empathy to a child.
Yeah.
Who could in their right mind could do that? You have to be a
Mhm,
psychopath.
mhm. Even the Iranian
And
regime
I
is not
witnessed that
that
with my own
brutal.
eyes.
The Israeli
Yeah.
occupation makes
And
the
I had one,
Iranian regime look like saints.
I had one in Bethlehem pull a machine gun out on me. I was walked up to the checkpoint. He aimed a machine gun at me.
Mm.
I mean, imagine how that felt having a machine gun pointed at you.
Yeah, that must have been scary.
Yeah, and I'm holding on my American passport. These people are cut from another cloth. They're not of the human race.
Hmm.
It's clear to me.
I felt that when I was in Jerusalem, occupied Jerusalem. I felt
Yes.
very uncomfortable with the Israeli people. Not all of them. There were some that smiled and have a warm feeling, but I would say they were like 1/5 of a
Yeah.
percent. The majority of them very arrogant. I mean, I noticed like when I went up to order a cup of coffee, something so simple like a cup of coffee from the cashier, the Jewish women would not speak to me. The Jewish
No,
Israeli women, they would
and they
not
won't look
speak to
in.
me. It was beneath them to speak to me. They would serve
They
me, give me my coffee, but they wouldn't say a word. And if I
and they
asked them a
won't
question, like they would not answer. They
and they
just
won't
said
look in
it's
the
this
eye.
much. Yeah,
They won't look you in the eye. Like I acknowledge
yeah,
you. I
yeah.
noticed.
What a stark contrast to the occupied Palestinian territories, to the Palestinian people, to the
Every
Palestinian people
time,
who welcome you into their home.
oh my God, every time I was in the Israel section, and I would come home at night, but back into the Palestinian side in the West Bank. I mean, just this overwhelming sense of peace will come over me. Like, oh, I'm in safe territory, which is not really safe because you've got the IDF everywhere. But you know what I mean. I'm around people that have sympathy and empathy and care about people.
Yeah.
And I had many discussions with my friends, and none of them ever uttered the word Jew, or they hated them. They just we used the word Zionist and how they hated the occupation. They wanted to be left alone. My one friend, he was very big and worked out, and he was scared to go to Old City Hebron because he's like, Dan, I got a son and a wife, and I'd go down there and they'll throw a knife by my shoes and arrest me. So I mean,
They
the
have to live in
lies,
constant fear.
constant fear of being set up. When you hear about a woman, with a knife at a checkpoint and she was brutally shot, you can bet that that was a lie.
Yeah, well, there was in 2016 when the Israeli settler attacks increased. And there was the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people picked up because, they wanted to start stealing more and more and more land. So again, they operate on false flags. So they started this knife intifada, okay, which was absolutely fabricated by the Israelis. The Palestinians were not rising up with knives. It was the Israelis. They began to extrajudicially execute Palestinians mostly at checkpoints. I think it's 85% of the executions, according to a report, a study, or in 2016, it was done at illegal Israeli checkpoints. So the mass majority of them, where the militants are, and also a Euromed monitor. The Euromed Monitor did an investigation and a report in 2016 after Ahmed Manasra and his cousin was executed and Ahmed Manasra was attacked. There was 8 instances of Palestinians that were executed, and they were all studied, all caught on camera. And what the conclusion of the report is that every one of them were extrajudicially executed. Now, the interesting thing is that the Israeli occupation immediately made up a story and said, no, this Palestinian carried out a knife attack. They went even so far as to claim that an Israeli was harmed, fabricating the whole thing. All right. And they were caught on camera Israeli settlers were caught on camera coming out and giving knives to the IDF, to the occupation militants, to plant next to the bodies of Palestinians. They were caught on camera. So 8 out of 8 times the Palestinians were innocent. 8 out of 8. But unfortunately, the media just repeats the Israeli lies too often, and so people are brainwashed. This is what we have going on. It's all for land grabbing. And now the Israeli occupation, they want to launch a full-scale military assault on Gaza again. They announced it, that they're going to do this.
What is left to bomb?
Yeah, what is their bank of targets going to be?
I mean, my God, they've utterly destroyed the place.
Yeah.
I don't know what's left. Seriously.
In 2014, when they were bombing Gaza, they had, according to Israeli reports, they had exhausted their bank of targets on day 3 of bombing. So everything else was just ad hoc. Let's make it up as we go along. 51 days of bombing.
Civilians.
Of civilians, yeah. They had no more bank of targets. Let's just oh, let's bomb the UN center here a few times. Let's bomb this hospital over there. They targeted every single hospital and clinic and just about in Gaza, and they wanted to bomb Al-Shifa too, the main hospital in Gaza. And they gave them warning, we're going to bomb, get out. And that's when a bunch of the international activists on the ground in Gaza, they went to Al-Shifa and they held a vigil so that it would not be bombed. And that's the only reason they were able to save that hospital.
They bombed the UN center with a bunch of children in it. And the coordinator of the United Nations, he sent out umpteen messages of the coordinates of where the building was and the children were, directly to the IDF. I mean, like something like 17 times.
17 times. That was Chris Guinness.
Yes. And you see the interview with him. He is in utter tears. They bombed the hell out of it and murdered, I don't know how many children.
It was like 12 or 14 people.
And it's heart-wrenching to watch. It really is. So yes, they deliberately murdered children.
When they carried out these pogroms, when they invoked the Hannibal Directive in 2014, which they did 2 times, which I documented, but also there was, I think, a 3rd time. So definitely twice. That's when the Palestinian resistance managed to get their hands on an Israeli militant and kidnapped him, took him, captured him. Then, in order to prevent the Israeli occupation, in order to prevent having to make concessions later and negotiate with Hamas, They went ahead and used all firepower at their disposal to wreak havoc on the entire area, to kill their soldier, their militant, as well as anybody in the vicinity. I mean, just to kill that one. How selfish is that? How psychotic is that? And when they evoked the Hannibal Directive on Rafah in 2014, it was 130 people that were massacred in less than 2.5 hours. 130 people, plus 300 more people were wounded within less than 2.5 hours. Can you imagine the state of affairs in the hospitals in Gaza?
No, I cannot. When they're ill-equipped to take that many people in, they don't have the necessary medical supplies, nor the doctors, nurses.
They were putting children's bodies into ice cream coolers. You know, the community pulled together.
I know.
You know, and emptied out the ice cream coolers, where the kids used to go to get their ice cream cones and snacks and sweet treats, and then it was holding their bodies. And this is what was going on in Gaza. The horrors these people have to endure is like nothing anywhere in the world going on today.
They give a new meaning to the word evil. I myself personally have run out of adjectives to describe how wicked they are.
And I don't want to see another extermination of people in Gaza. Again, you know, how can the world stand by and tolerate this and let it happen? You know?
Because we've got a world full of oligarchs.
Yeah, but we have the power. Human beings have the power. We have to have the courage, you know, to speak out, tell the truth.
Which we are doing.
Speak out against this. Yeah, we are doing it.
We
I
are
wish
doing
more people would do the same.
I do too. Ariyana, my biggest dream is for American people to wake up. That's why I went there twice, and that's why I'm going to go back again. And I will get in my dying breath speaking the truth about this.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking that maybe I should write about what I witnessed in 2014 during the 51 days of bombing. Because I was working with journalists on the ground in Gaza and helping them to report the news as it was coming out. So I saw not everything, but most everything.
Yeah.
I saw every day. I was watching, hours around the clock. And reading the reports. I mean, you can't imagine when you got like the bombing would begin at about midnight, and it would intensify. They always like to bomb and hit them at night. They bomb all through the day too, but it intensifies at night.
Yes, it does.
Terrifying then.
They
love to inflict that psychological trauma as well.
That's when they usually raid homes. 3 a.m. is their magic witching hour. Is 3 a.m. Yeah. I know it is in the West Bank.
So you can imagine.
They have drones flying all over Gaza. So they know where everyone is.
They know. They've got the technology to look right into people's homes.
They do. And listen, that's why a lot of them are fearful to post things on Facebook. They're fearful because they know they'll be pointed out. And there have been there have been Palestinians abducted for having posted something and getting a lot of likes and shares.
Oh, you mean the Palestinian people? Yeah, oh, absolutely. They've been abducting Palestinians for Facebook posts and then putting them in jail for that. Anything that shows solidarity. They're very afraid of anybody rising up as a leader because they don't want people to have a strong resistance. One of the reasons why Palestine does have a strong resistance, at least in Gaza it does, I think the reason the Palestinian people are still alive and kicking today is because they are unified. I think Islam gives them strength, the knowledge, because knowledge is power. You know, knowledge, you have conviction, you have, they pride themselves in being people of Allah, people of God. This is something they don't take it lightly. They wear it with pride. You know, it's written on their faces and in their smiles and on their hearts. And they show this warm welcoming to the public. You know, when there's a guest, they invite, like we were saying earlier, they invite you right into their home and share whatever they have with you. And you know, I remembering back in 2014 when I would sit there and read the reports. We had people translating the reports into English and reading the reports around the clock. You know, you would see, like, after the bombing would intensify in the middle of the night, I would see, okay, 5 members of this family killed, and your heart just goes, oh. You know, it's like being punched in the stomach. Okay, you just imagine the family of 5 were just slaughtered, and then over here, family of 3 bombed. You know, 5 minutes later.
They had wiped out whole families, literally.
10 minutes later, another family. 2 minutes later, 2 people here. 20 minutes later, 5 people here. You know, and it just kept going on like this for hours throughout the night, for 51 days. And they wiped out entire families. 89 entire bloodlines were extinguished from the face of the earth in Gaza. That's genocide. When you wipe out a bloodline, that's genocide. Those people can't come back. That's sick. That's beyond sick. But it wasn't just 89 families bombed. It was just those bloodlines where they lost everyone. The entire family just killed. There were, I don't know how many families, probably, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but, you know, over 2,000 people were killed, and over 500 children were killed in bombing. Like 1,700 homes were destroyed. And these were civilians. And I think a study released by if I remember correctly, by the UN, it was like something like 87%, they said, were civilian targets. I don't know where they get their numbers for. I think it was a lot higher than that. Because if they exhausted their bank of targets on day 3, after that, they're just bombing.
They have no army.
Yeah.
The Palestinians have no real army.
They never did. They didn't
have
need
rocks
one.
and slingshots. No.
Palestine had peace for 1,600 years. Maybe about 2,000 years at least. There was peace and harmony in Palestine. You know, for the last 1,600 years, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and every other religion that exists in Palestine, were living in harmony with each other. They had a beautiful life. There was a thriving, rich economy in Palestine based on agriculture and trade, with the olive tree the number one. With the number one trade export. In Palestine. They're farmers. They're expert agriculturalists. Actually, Palestinians are considered the most expert farmers in the world. And they have, you know,
and the land is rich. We were hiking in the mountains of Bethlehem, and there are grapevines everywhere, lemon trees, orange trees. We were just picking things off the trees as we were hiking.
Yeah. And they're craftsmen. They're expert craftsmen. They do embroidery. They make everything by hand. In the past, they used to do everything by hand with their own 2 hands. And still today, they still do. They still plow the lands with a donkey. Because what is it? The landscape is it's terraced. That's the word I'm looking for. It's terraced landscape. So they have these old ancient stone walls that are like hundreds of years old, maybe even more. And they continue, you know, if they start to fall apart, they continue to add stones to them and they just repair it. So it's this beautiful landscape that's terraced with these stone wall terraces. It's gorgeous with the olive trees. And they can't even take a tractor out into those areas. So they take a donkey and a plow. And they make their own cheese. They make their own, you know, they do everything by their own hands. It's a really honorable way to live. Something that, you know, we in the West have lost. And maybe the occupation has kept them, you know, from becoming rapidly modern. So they're still in touch with the old ways. And this is something I saw that was so beautiful to me. And you don't really find that in too many places in the world today.
No, they're experts living off the land, no doubt. What
And like
land
you
that
were,
is left, that is.
yeah. And what, like you were saying, the land, there's something really special about the land. Not only is it holy land, is it blessed, as they say, all the prophets, peace be upon them, they walked, you know, they walked softly on this land. Their footprints, you know, their energetic imprint is on the land. And this is what one thing that makes it holy, but also the soil itself, it's been studied that it has something very special. The minerals are found nowhere else in the world, the mineral compound. So it is the best climate for growing. You have a lot of sunlight and this rich, rich soil. And then the wells, there's wells all across Palestine. I mean, it's the land of milk and honey. And the wells have some sort of special mineral compound as well. So when I ate of the fruits and of the vegetables grown on this land and the olive oil, wow,
You know, when
it
I first
was
got there,
a
it,
blast of flavors.
when I first got there, it was like, it was almost like too strong for me. It was like kind of like, wow. But
Yeah, me too.
as time went on, I learned to love it. And and the bread there, oh my God, they make the best bread on the planet. Every morning they would stop at the bakery and get fresh bread. Those round, you know, the round pocket bread, and we would eat, you know, dip it in the olive oil and the thyme,
They eat
and
olive oil with every meal, basically.
every meal olive oil. But didn't you say the same thing that it was like it tasted strange
When
to
I
you at
first
first?
tasted it, oh yeah, I've never tasted anything like it. It
It
was
was like
so strong and
yes,
had so much flavor that at first I was like, oh, how can they eat this? I'm
yeah,
thinking, I
yeah,
never tasted anything like it. You know, we got this mild olive oil in the West, you know, maybe Italian or Greek, or
yeah.
it's much more mild. You know, the Palestinian olive oil is like, whoa, it's just.
Whoa,
But the interesting thing is, like, I kind of had an aversion to it at first, but then I was like, well, I'm going to eat it because that was what they put in front of me. That was the first meal I had when I arrived. Okay. And or no, it was in the morning or something like this. But anyway, it was olive oil. And I was like, okay, well, that's what they gave me to eat. So I'm going to eat it.
right?
And then the interesting thing is when I became hungry, when I started to feel hungry again and start craving food, my body was craving that olive oil. I was
Yes,
like, ooh, I want some of that, some more of that. My body knew, you know, but then I was like, but didn't I not like it? And so then when they put the olive oil in front of me again, I was like, oh, good, there it is, you know.
and
And
it's
so
very
it became this addiction. You like your body didn't, then every time I was hungry, I had to have it.
when we ate in the morning at the table, they would cook eggs and put all the food out, and olive oil and the thyme, and and you take the bread and it's like a community where he had a big pan that he cooked the eggs in, and you would just dip the bread and grab some eggs, and everyone would just eat out of the same
They eat with their
pan.
hands, with their fingers. They break the bread
They
and like
break the
use
bread
the bread
and
as a
scoop it.
spoon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I fell in love with eating with my hands.
Yeah, it was really
It's
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was there.
I have such fond memories of being there. Every day and night was an adventure. Whether it was a good adventure or a bad adventure, but we would go out almost every night to a coffee shop and just tell stories and had a laugh. And it was amazing to me how my friends could go out and literally share laughs under, you're behind this wall and this horrific military occupation, yet they're able to still come out with a laugh and have a good time in the evening, tell jokes, tell stories. And that taught me something, because I went there with rage in my heart. I mean, I was, one night one of my friends had to console me. I mean, my Palestinian friends say, Dan, it's okay. I'm like livid, I want to go down to the whole city and punch an IDF soldier in the face. And he's like, Dan, relax, it's okay, it's our life. And they know that the other Arab countries are not on their side. They know this. He said, who's going to
They
help
had to.
us?
Yeah.
Who was going to help us? I'm like, well, isn't Iran helping you guys some? But they are some of them.
They have amazing spirit. They also had to calm me down a few times when news would come out and I would get really upset, and they would, explain to me, no, it's okay. This is, they have this incredible wisdom, you can say, just incredible wisdom, incredible spirit, and ability to resist.
Yeah, they persevere like no other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that they're unified because it's, when the Palestinians reverted to Islam, became Muslim, it was all at the same time. So it was Sunni Islam. It was the more accurate Islam before any sects. They follow the Quran. And what is written in the Quran, what is actually written in Quran is beautiful. Everything is there. And the people who attack the Quran is the Jewish mafia, Zionists. They hate the Quran. They hate Islam because it names them. It reveals them that they have been doing making these massive mistakes every time. Every time they, have congregated and had power, they turn around and subjugate other people, the Jewish community. This is what the Quran says, and it says exactly what's going to happen to the Jewish community, to everyone. And so, the Palestinian people, they carry this wisdom of the Quran. They believe that 100%. And this is where they get their strength from. And this is what unifies them. And that's why the Jewish community, the Jewish mafia, I don't mean all of the Jewish people, but the Jewish mafia and the Zionists are attacking Islam. They don't want us to discover the truth. So they spend a lot of money in putting fake websites up there that are anti-Islam and spreading fake stories that have nothing to do with Islam or the Quran. And okay, there's a lot of Arab countries that are not practicing the right Islam. And this is what Palestinian people told me. They know that, the Palestinian, even the Quran says that it is the Palestinian people, the new caliphate would be in Palestine, that it is the Palestinian people that would be closest to Allah and to the true teachings of the messenger and of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and of the Quran. So they imparted great wisdom to me that touched and changed my life. I've never gotten that anywhere else from any other people on this earth. So there's something so valuable that they have that, we can all learn from. They teach tolerance. They teach patience. They teach us resistance. They teach us
love.
righteousness. They teach love.
They teach love. I met a Palestinian Authority official in Old Hebron City, and he told me they have a kitchen in the morning, every morning in Old City. They serve food to anyone and anybody that is in need of food. And it doesn't matter what your religion is, what your nationality is. If you go there, they will feed you.
They're very good about that. They're very clever at making foreigners love them. Like, it's an opportunity for them. When there's a foreigner that goes to Palestine, it is an opportunity they treat the guests better than their own family. They give the best to the guest. And they want the guests to feel that to be
at
touched
home.
by their spirit, so that we will leave defending them, having to defend them. They're very clever. And I mean, this is beautiful, you know, and it can only come from a pure heart to do such a thing. It can only come from, you know, being genuine, which is what,
Oh,
unfortunately, what the the other side of the apartheid wall, they don't have it. They don't have
they
that
have zero.
compassion and the generosity. You don't see it
They,
there. In fact, my skin
they have
crawled when I was among them.
they have
Even
hatred.
I'm in
Nothing but
occupied Jerusalem, right? In the Israeli occupied areas. And you know, even it's modern, it's very Western. It's like just like the West, like Finland, North America. But the people were
full of
creepy,
hatred.
full of hatred.
Hate hatred. Like,
You ask them anything about the Palestinian people, and they're just brainwashed to believe that the Palestinian people they're just all terrorists.
yeah, my first trip there, I had to spend the night in Tel Aviv, and I got to get a taxi to get to the West Bank. And the taxi driver assumed I was Jewish, and he asked me where I was going, and I said Jerusalem. And he said, "Well, where at?" And I said, "Well, to the checkpoint." I didn't know that Bethlehem was actually the gateway to Hebron at the time. I was new, and finally I just came clean. I said, "Listen, I'm going to Hebron." He said, "Oh, you," and he was an older man, and he had served in the IDF. So you cannot serve in the IDF and not learn the truth of what's going on there. It's impossible. It's impossible. You know
Yeah.
what the hell, you know that you are committing atrocities against these people. He said, "You can't go there. It's dangerous and evil there." And he spent the rest of the trip to that checkpoint trying to talk me out of going to Hebron. And I said, "I have friends there. I will be fine." I said, "You served in the IDF. How do you feel about how would you feel about living under an occupation? How would you feel
How did he
living under?"
respond?
He didn't. He didn't really answer my
Didn't
question.
have anything to say.
Didn't have anything to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I came in through the airport the first time I went to Palestine, I was in Ben Gurion. You know, it's the Israeli
I
airport.
hate that place.
Yeah, and they questioned, you know, I had this questioning session, and the woman wanted to know what I was there for, and I said pilgrimage, because it's true. You know, it's Holy Land. I felt that very much so, that I was there as on a pilgrimage. And she told me not to go into the West Bank. And I asked why. And she said, well, because it's not safe. I said, why is it not safe? Well, just because it's not safe, you know, and they try to warn you and scare you
Yeah,
away
it's
from
scary.
going there. They want the tourists to stay in occupied Jerusalem area and in the Israeli um, hotels and stuff. They don't want people going to Bethlehem. But I encourage everybody who goes to Palestine, don't stay in an Israeli hotel. Go to Bethlehem, stay in a
Yes,
Bethlehem hotel, and support the Palestinian people as much as you can.
absolutely.
Spend your money there. Don't spend
Uh,
it. Don't stay the night in Jerusalem.
no,
You're more safe with the Palestinian people. They're very, very safe. I never, ever felt afraid for my life or for my safety whatsoever. I could
I
walk
walk
around alone anywhere.
I walk the streets day and night and never once ever felt remotely in any danger. And I can't say that here in Maryland and Washington D.C.
Well, I mean, I suppose there is some danger. Like if you are maybe a public figure, or you're known a little bit, you better have somebody with you, because then you could become a target of abduction,
of the
kidnapping,
IDF.
and I of the yeah, exactly, of the Israel. I mean, of course they will try to make it look like it's Palestinian that did it, but it would be them. Yeah, if they have the
Yeah,
chance to do that.
the Shin
They
Bet
did
is
that.
all over
They
that
did that
place.
with yeah, that Italian activist that went to Gaza, Antonio, what was his last name? I forget his last name, but most people know. Yeah, he was abducted it was by Palestinians, but they were paid. They were paid to do that by the
That's
Israelis.
probably part of the
So it
Shin
was
Bet.
made, yeah, it was made to look, they wanted to make it look like Palestinians did that. They want people to think
The
it's unsafe to go into Palestinian territories. because they don't want
the
people
Shin
going
Bet,
there. They don't want people seeing the truth.
they're Arab Israelis that work for the Israelis.
Hi,
The Shin
Naji.
Bet.
Hi, Khalid. Hi, Walid. And hello, Lillian. I saw your names, and I want to say hello. Thanks for tuning in. We were just gushing our oops. Dan and I are just gushing our hearts out at how much we love the Palestinian people. This is a love fest going on here.
Yeah.
We're talking about our experiences, how we've been touched by the Palestinian people when we traveled there to occupy
Like
Palestine,
when I
how it
went
changed our lives.
when I went to Nabi Saleh to meet the Tamimi family, they let us in with open arms. The the aunt let us come in and called her father, and he came and welcomed us and granted me an interview at the time she was in prison. And I met her aunt, her brother,
Mm.
and I met uh, the cousin, the little rock star. What's her name?
Jenna Jihad.
Jenna Jihad. I met her
I
and
love those
interviewed
girls.
her.
How could
She's
anyone
so
not love them?
she is so sweet. Her father lives in Florida, and she could live in the States, but she wants to be the world's youngest journalist, and she wants to go to Harvard, become a journalist. And I think she's off
Inshallah.
to I think she's in a great having a great start on
Yeah,
that
those
mission.
girls are stars. They're stars of in Palestine. They're stars of the resistance. They're stars globally. People admire them so much for their wisdom. They have such wisdom at their age.
She is wise. I mean, I think she's like, how old is she? Like 11? I mean, wise beyond her years.
No, she's 12 or 13 now. I think she's yeah. She got her yeah, she's 12 or 13.
And her English is really, really good.
And she's the youngest journalist in the world. She has a, journalist ID card.
I
And
mean, she
she
speaks
started
excellent.
reporting on against the Israeli war crimes at age 7,
And the
filming
Tamimi
them,
family,
confronting
they,
them.
Mr. Tamimi made me show me an order that the Israelis have already put an order out to destroy his home.
Oh no.
Yes, it's already an order put out for it, which can happen anytime. And the village is up on a hill outside of Ramallah, and down the hill is one of the largest settlements in all the West Bank. And part of that land used to belong to the Tamimi family. The Israelis already stole a portion of his land, and he pointed
The
it out to me.
the entire village in Nabi Saleh is the Tamimi family. It belongs to the Tamimi family. There's maybe around 500 people living there, and they're all part of the extended Tamimi family.
And
And that family is
targeted big time.
egregiously targeted. Oh, what they do to them, it's beyond. I mean, they don't even speak about it. They don't even complain about it. Like there's just this long trail of atrocities against them and against the children. Like almost every child has been abducted and spent time in Israeli occupation
Well,
jails
Mr.
and
Tamimi, he had
tortured.
been in prison. He had been in prison, I think, 2 or 3 times. They murdered his sister. The IDF murdered his sister. Of course, I had and her mother were in prison at the time. This was last January. But my point is, they invited us in with open arms, gave us hot tea because it was
Yeah.
cold outside, and were just so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the honor of meeting Jana Jihad and doing an interview with her, and she is so sweet. I
She's
think I
very
may have
sweet.
kept her a little bit too long.
Mm-hmm.
I got to talk with her a few times, and they're so lovely. Um, but again, the way that they're targeted, it is horrible. It is just horrible, and a lot of things were just swept under the rug. Where I mean, most of the it was never in the mainstream media. But okay, but Ahed Tamimi, she was on the cover of Vogue. That is
I know.
incredible. You know, after spending 8 months in Israeli military detention, um, you know, she traveled to Europe, and at first the Israeli occupation tried to stop her from
Did,
going, and
they tried to deny her? Did they
she
deny her
was,
to the U.S.? I think they denied her to come to the U.S.
I think so. At first they denied her. Well, at first the Israeli occupation tried to prevent her from going to Europe when she had the permission, you know. But she managed to go, and then she got on the front cover of Vogue.
Good for
That
her.
was the big surprise after her visit to Europe. It was incredible. Incredible. That's any the first Palestinian on the front cover of a magazine like that, you know? And she's
She's
still a
a
child. She's still 17.
she's like a rock
Um,
star.
yeah, and you know, and she was expressing her feelings in a Guardian, the Guardian article about how she feels that, you know, she was not able to live the life of a child, you know, that she
Yes,
has been resisting from as far back as, you know, she
she
remembers,
can
and
remember. Yeah,
you know, leading demonstrations through her village every Friday through Nabi Sallah, and that this is what consumed their life. They were so busy with that. They have to constantly resist, that there were many things she could not do as a child and live her life as a normal child. And now she's a public figure. She's not even yet an adult.
hmm
And so, and this is her role, which is, you know, it's an incredible amount of power that these girls have, and this family has, because they are respected by
they
so
are the
many and known.
they are the
They have
face of resistance,
and they're
basically.
genuine. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
they have a voice to represent their people and to be heard. And that's an amazing gift. It's an amazing gift that they have. And they earned
and they
it.
have a and they have a nice house. It's a for their it was a nice house, and I just couldn't think that the IDF is going to steal it. It just made me
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're targeting and punishing the Tamimi family for resisting. Um, you know, there's a settlement next to Nabi Sallah, an illegal Jewish Israeli settlement. They're stealing the water from Nabi Sallah village. Like Dan said, they've already stolen some of the Tamimi land. So they've poisoned wells in the area.
Oh,
So
the water pressure in the
they're
West Bank is
trying to,
horrible.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of families, they only get to fill up their tanks like once a week, and it's not enough to last for the whole week. So they have to really, really be frugal with water. Whereas before the Israeli occupation, they had access, you know, there's wells all across the Holy Land. They had plenty of water. Water was never a rare commodity. But the Israeli occupation, they're keeping the water for the Jewish people. And they're not sharing it with the Palestinians. They're giving them very little, and then they charge them for it on top of
They're
that.
they're stealing like 80% of the water. That's what the Palestinian Authority uh, advisor that I met told me.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me a PowerPoint slide actually that they
Mm-hmm.
created for the UN of all the inside information
Mm-hmm.
of of the occupation, and
Mm-hmm.
I still have it.
Oh, I'd love to see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I'll send it to you.
That's great.
But they steal 80% of the water. They made it. They made a
85.
stat. They made a you know, the massacre at Abraham Mosque in Old City Hebron,
Yeah.
where an Israeli went in and murdered, I forget, like 32 Palestinians,
Mm-hmm.
and the Israelis built a monument in his honor that murdered these people. It's in the Old City,
Mm-hmm.
and not only
Mm-hmm.
did they do that, they split the mosque in half, put a wall right in the middle of the mosque, and made the other side a synagogue. I've been in both sides of that building. I've been in the synagogue and the mosque. You had to, the Palestinians have to go through a checkpoint to go into a mosque
Mm-hmm.
in Old City, Hebron.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, to go into your own mosque
Mm-hmm.
in your own town, You had to go through a military checkpoint.
Mhm. The entire town, the entire city of Hebron is like sectioned off. It's sealed. You know,
A, a,
people have to
a,
go through a checkpoint to go to from their house to anywhere,
A,
to go
B,
to
and C.
school. Every day they have to pass through a checkpoint. So they've ghettoized Hebron. And there's a campaign, by the way, led by activist Jonas Arar and oh, what is her name? I'm sorry if you're watching, I forget your name. But anyway, you know, a young lady that I did a campaign with them, but she's okay. So they are leading this campaign to what is it? You know, in solidarity with the with Hebron, because just recently, it was last Sunday, the Israeli occupation passed a new ruling to kick all international observers out of Hebron. So basically now, you know, these international observers were from many different countries, and they were, you know, documenting the war crimes. So they were there, present, walking kids to school, keeping them safe from against the Israeli settlers, because the settlers have free reign to come down into Hebron and terrorize the population, and they do attack children. Many Palestinian children have been killed by Israeli settlers. I don't know, maybe they're doing, you know, blood sacrifice. Maybe they love to abduct them, torture them, and kill them. And, you know, maybe they're doing some kind of satanic or Talmudic ritual. I mean, these settlers, they're really crazy, real
I, I,
extremists. And
I had the pleasure of bumping into 4 of them with machine guns over their shoulders. They literally bumped into me as an IDF soldier was asking for my passport. I'm like, really? These wackos are walking around with machine guns and you're asking for my passport?
pushing you around. So the
Oh,
settlers
God, it was
asked you
just
for your
so
passport.
despicable.
The settlers in Hebron asked you for your passport?
No,
Was it settler?
no, the soldiers. The soldiers.
Oh, okay. So the settlers just
After
bumped you.
yeah, 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 it bumped into me. And they had machine
Mm-hmm.
guns right around their shoulders. I was with the group,
Mm-hmm.
Muslims from Amsterdam in
So
Austria.
yeah, so the settlers think they own Hebron, and as soon as the international observers were kicked out of Hebron, and that was on Sunday, immediately the children were, you know, basically the settlers came down and were attacking everybody. And so Palestinian volunteers volunteered to walk the Palestinian children in Hebron to school, to and from school, because even the children are not safe to do that.
No.
And there was, that's why we saw those videos come out of you know, one illegal settler, a female, a famous one, slapped a Palestinian man. Now, you know, if you look at that in contrast to Ahed Tamimi slapping an Israeli militant on her property who was trying to shoot at kids, compared to this illegal Israeli settler who slaps a Palestinian man trying to protect the kids. You know, there's no punishment for the settler, yet Ahed Tamimi got 8 months in his Israeli occupation prison and was abducted when she was 16. Where's the justice for the Palestinian people? Yeah, just wanted to throw that in. So now Hebron
Yeah.
is really in a bad state. Now Hebron, it's very dangerous, very volatile situation for the residents there. And this is exactly what the Israeli occupation wants. They want the people to get to the point where they think it's so unbearable that they will just leave,
They
and
leave.
then they
They
can take
leave.
it.
They want it all.
So they're
They want.
torturing them.
You can't drive 5 miles without seeing a settlement anywhere in the West Bank. Literally, you cannot.
Yeah,
5 miles and you're going to see a big settlement up on the hill.
they're all over the place. They're
They're all
they're
over the
positioned
place.
strategically to steal the resources, to
And what
blockade the Palestinians, to create a network of roads that
only is
Bantustans, they're called, like South Africa, to keep Palestinians imprisoned in their own land.
they have highways in the West Bank only Israelis can drive on.
Very apartheid. 3-story high walls that that
Only
that that
Israelis.
that
Train.
divide the Palestinian people.
The train goes to Bethlehem, to Jerusalem, to Tel Aviv. Only Israelis allowed.
And that train used to service Palestinians. I mean, it used to go from Jerusalem all the way through. First village was Batir. Batir was the village that I lived in for 1 year. And that train went right through Batir, and then it went on into the other villages. And it was a source of, the Palestinians were able to take their goods, their handmade goods and their produce, and take it on the train into Jerusalem and sell them. So Batir was actually known as the vegetable basket of Jerusalem, and provided the most produce for Jerusalem city. So it was like, again, a thriving, rich economy based on agriculture and trade is what Palestine enjoyed. It was the land of milk and honey. There was abundance for everyone. You never were hungry. And when the Zionist militia, destroyed and killed 400 villages and killed over 15,000 Palestinians and chased almost 800,000 more off their land in Al-Nakba, which is genocide. They also stole the train. They stole everything. They stole the airport, which was called Al-Lud. It's today Ben Gurion. Palestinians had an airport license of their own.
Had an airline.
And an airline called Al-Lud, L-O-D, Al-Lud airport. And it's now Ben Gurion. They stole, everything. They had infrastructure. They had their currency. They had everything. They were civilized. And it was all stolen.
They had a
stole the train.
They had a train that went from Cairo to Jerusalem, or to Bethlehem to Jerusalem, all the way to Lebanon.
Yeah.
The train went all the way from Cairo.
Yeah.
To Lebanon, through Palestine.
It was known as Greater Jerusalem. It was the capital of the Middle East. Before the Middle East was chopped up and sectioned into countries by the French and the British. It was one body, one people, without barriers. The barriers and the borders was all introduced later by these Western cultures. And Jerusalem was Greater Jerusalem. It was the capital of the Middle East. So it was a trading point. It was a trading post. And there were travelers going to Jerusalem from all over the world. And that known as, it was oops, I think we lost Dan. Okay, well, maybe he'll come back. Well, Palestine was known as a land for all people, for a people without a land. The Jewish Zionists stole that and said a land without a people for a people without a land. So they twisted it, they inverted it. But the actual saying goes that it was a land for all people for a people without a land. So it was the most welcoming place on earth. Anybody could come from anywhere. They were free to practice their religion. There was no oppression taking place. And even the Jewish people who immigrated there, the Sephardi Jews, they were allowed to practice their religion and to live there, and first under the Ottoman Empire. And there was peace and harmony. So that's why Palestinian Jews reject Zionism and the Israeli occupation, because they knew and had tasted what the life was like before it and preferred the way that things were, preferred the peace to the occupation. And they're very against Zionism. So there are Palestinian Jews. And, when you think about like Jesus, peace be upon him, he also was Palestinian. This is something that, is kind of interesting. Let's see if Dan comes back. Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about this train. Dan and we were talking about the train that was confiscated to be used. It's used now only by Jews. The Palestinians are not allowed to use it. Yet it goes right through their land, right through their villages, and it used to belong to them. Imagine how they feel. So in the village of Batir, which was the vegetable basket of Jerusalem, in 1948, when they confiscated the train, the Palestinian people could no longer take their goods into Jerusalem to sell. And so they had to walk to Jerusalem with, you know, baskets on their heads. The women had these big baskets, and they would put the produce into the baskets, and they'd have to carry them 2.5 to 3 kilometers into Jerusalem, there and back. They had to walk the long journey because they couldn't use the train anymore. And if they were lucky, maybe they had donkeys that could take their goods in. Okay, Dan is back. Let's bring you in. Bring Dan on camera. There we go. Hi, Brandon. Nice to see you.
Hi, Michael.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
My
Dan.
battery went dead.
Oh, I hear
an echo. I hear my own voice, I think.
Through your.
How's it now?
Let's see.
Let's see. Yeah.
No, there it is.
There it is.
Does everybody else
Does
hear an
everybody
echo?
else hear an echo?
Do you know what's
I don't
causing
Do you know
that,
what's causing that, Dan?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you unplug
Can
your
you
headphone
unplug your
and plug it back
headphone
in?
and plug it back in?
Actually, I got to keep my shirt on. I don't have the
Not sure what's
headphones on.
causing that echo.
Causing that echo.
Oh, but it's hard.
It's hard.
Does everybody else
Does everybody else hear an echo
through
through
Dan's?
Dan's?
Do you guys hear my voice playing twice? Or is it just me?
Or is it just me?
Can somebody say, let me know?
Let me know.
Well, okay, so anyway, the train. I'll finish the story about the train because it's interesting. So when the Zionist militia confiscated Palestine's railway network, the people in Batir, I was telling them that they had to walk into Jerusalem, occupied Jerusalem, with baskets on their head and all their produce and goods and handmade crafts. And the hardship began for the Palestinian people, what they did not know before. And after 2 years, so in 1950, the village of Batir and many villages people were starving. They had famine for the first time in the Holy Land. They had never experienced this type of hardship. And there's a famous story in Batir where the villagers were collecting orange peels on the ground from the Jewish people who would pass through the village, and they would toss their orange peels out the window of the train. And the Palestinians of Batir were going along and collecting those orange peels and eating them because it was food. So this type of hardship was very much introduced into Palestine, where it didn't exist before. And so the Zionist influence has been torture for the Palestinian people.
From day one.
From day one. Let me see.
Echo.
Well, okay.
Well, Jesus said your father is of the devil.
Yeah. Oh, I still hear my voice. I hear my voice coming through your computer. How is that possible?
I don't know.
Is it listening?
I hear you fine.
Yeah, but I hear my voice. Okay. It wasn't like before.
So the Zionists have made a real many things.
What?
The Zionists have made hell on earth become a reality. And that's what it is.
And not just for Palestine, for the whole world.
The whole world.
Look what the Zionists are doing to America.
They even infiltrate the local communities, the judges on our courts, the school systems, the local the local newspapers. They control every nook and cranny of America.
Congress,
Washington, D.C., the military industrial complex, big time.
yes,
They won't be happy until they have total world domination, which
that is the point.
Which they're damn near there.
Yes. The New World Order. And the Bush crime family, they are also crypto Jews. I mean, they're Catholics, but again, the Vatican is crypto Jewish. The Vatican adopted Talmudic law just over 1,100 years ago.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that the Pope wears a yarmulke.
And Bush and Trump and Obama all went to occupy Jerusalem during the yarmulke.
Right? Yeah, you know, I said this when I was there the first time I went through that stupid wall. Bethlehem is 15 minutes away, the Church of Nativity. Now, they all profess to be so-called Christians. So why do they go to this fucking wall? That means absolutely nothing. There's nothing but an old Roman fort, Fort Antonio, I believe. When Bethlehem is 15 minutes away, and the Church of Nativity where Jesus preached. Does that make any sense to you? Because it doesn't to me.
Well, I mean, Zionism is anti-Christian.
Well, I mean, I know it was a rhetorical question, really, but
yeah, right. Well, we talked about that in the last live stream. We talked about the temple that they're building.
Yeah, it's an old fort, Roman fort, Fort Antonio, I believe.
Yeah, but we were talking about the global takeover, globalization. We can't global again is worldwide.
Worldwide, yeah.
You know that this is what unifies everybody. No, we're unified. There's two camps of people.
The Zionists have done a phenomenal job of infiltrating the Christian church in America and in the Western world.
That too.
I mean, they have done a magnificent job with the Schofield Bible.
That's right. They paid for the translation. Biblical translations.
And in the Schofield Bible, it says those who bless Israel will be blessed. And that is an absolute fucking lie. God was talking to Abraham.
I don't want my video to be flagged. Okay. I want to put it on YouTube too.
It's an outright lie.
I know. When I get upset, that's the only time
When I get upset, that's the only time that I post to. Is when I'm upset.
That upsets me very much.
And nobody gets me that upset, but the psychopaths.
The psychopaths.
Exactly. I mean, a passage that's so straightforward could be so twisted and believed is beyond comprehension. It's like saying the sky is not blue; it's black, when clearly it's blue. And millions and millions have fallen for this lie.
So we have this takeover of worldwide takeover, which began with the Bush crime family when they drafted this document called UN Agenda 21 for sustainable development.
Sustainable development.
But that was basically they put the New World Order government, they created a new committee within the United Nations, and that is the New World Order government. And most countries in the world have signed onto it. So they're part of the depopulation agenda. And this
which
is
was
the
also
scariest part, you know.
The Rockefeller Foundation.
1997. That was introduced, and then later, Agenda
Actually,
2030.
2031 started under the Clinton administration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is exactly where we're at. So, if it's all right with you, Dan, I want to end this live stream because I keep hearing my voice going back, and I can't focus. It's too much. And anyway, I wanted to keep this kind of under 1 hour, which I think we've gone over. So I just want to let people know that, once again, that I'm going to bring forth some information, new things that have come to light. There's a tribunal in London on the worldwide child sacrificing, pedophile, child trafficking business. And we've had some incredible testimony from powerful people who were on the inside, even one cabal member who's a former banker. And I want to share, I'm compiling some information about that is very important for everyone to be aware of. And I'm going to present it in a live stream real soon. So I will let everybody know when I'm preparing to do that. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Dan?
No, I think we hit a lot of topics.
I'm tired of seeing this satanic star behind me. The satanic star is what that is. Luciferian. Anyway, I've got the flag upside down because America is in a state of distress. This is patriotic right here.
Yes, it is.
I don't understand why more people aren't doing it.
Because they're brainwashed.
Okay. Yeah. So, share if you care. And remember, pray for the 8-year-old boy who was shot in the chest in Gaza yesterday.
What about the girl?
And the woman. Yeah, there was a woman. She went up to the apartheid fence, and she was holding a Palestinian flag.
Any news on her?
Clearly unarmed. And they just shot her in cold blood.
Any news
so these
on
are the
her?
two that are not yet. These are the two that are in critical condition. And that was caught on camera. That should infuriate everybody. We have a duty. You have a fiducial responsibility when you witness a crime, when you see it, to resist. Okay, so until next time, everyone. Thanks and thank you, Dan, for joining.
Thanks, Ariana.
And for all your input.
Thank you.
Okay. Free Palestine. Dan, Frank, Ariyana Love with OpTv.